I'm reading out of the Reference Guide to Regulatory Compliance, the old paper guide, on page 743, Unclaimed Property. The Uniform Disposition of Unclaimed Property Act was created as a consumer protection law in order to safeguard an owner's property and provide a means for reuniting the property with its owner. Unclaimed property is any financial asset that has been left inactive by the owner. The most common property types are savings and checking accounts, uncashed bank checks, certificates of deposit, and safe deposit box contents. By law, most accounts become unclaimed when there is no owner contact with the holder or no client-initiated activity for a specified period, typically 3 to 5 years. However, the period varies by state and property type. Often the owner forgets the account exists, moves to another locality, and does not leave a forwarding address, or the forwarding address expires. In some cases, the owner dies and the heirs have no knowledge of the property. All states, the District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have enacted their own versions of the Uniform Unclaimed Property Act. States' rights under these laws are derived from owners' rights, rather than the holder benefiting from owners who do not claim their property. The state benefits. The state also acts as custodian of the property until it is claimed by the owner. Most states require a one-time advertisement of the owner's name or address in the county newspaper that serves the owner's last known address. States also have used other methods to reunite property with owners, such as sponsoring booths at state fairs or using the internet to list owners. Under unclaimed property laws, the holder is required to attempt to locate the owner. Under unclaimed property laws, the holder is required to attempt to locate the owner, file reports with the proper state authorities, and remit property to the state. Subsection 1, coverage. A holder may be a business association, banking and financial organization, life insurance corporation, or another person holding the owner's property. B, unclaimed property that must be identified and reported includes demand savings and matured time deposits, including automatically renewing time deposit accounts. 2, drafts, certified checks, and cashier's checks. 3, life insurance policy proceeds. 4, money orders and traveler's checks. 5, safe deposit box contents. 6, wages. 7, intangible interest, stock dividends, bond principal and interest, and various types of tangible personal property. Subpart 2, requirements. Identification of escheatable property. Holders must review their records each year to determine if they hold any funds, securities, or other property that has been unclaimed for the required dormancy period. Property escheatable to the state includes any demand, savings, or mature time deposit, including automatically renewing time deposit accounts, or accounts subject to a negotiable order of withdrawal, made with a check, including interest and dividends, including any reasonable service charges that lawfully may be withheld when the owner, for longer than the prescribed period, typically 3 to 5 years, has not increased or decreased the amount of the deposit account, cashed an interest check, or presented the passbook or similar evidence of the deposit for the crediting of interest. B, corresponded electronically or in writing with the bank concerning the deposit account, otherwise indicated, C, in the deposit account as evidenced by memo or other record on file with the bank. D, performed the above actions with respect to another deposit account at the same institution. Number 2, any funds from an individual retirement account or similar account or plans established pursuant to the Internal Revenue laws when the owner for longer than the prescribed period, typically 3 to 5 years after the funds become payable or distributable, has not increased or decreased the principal. B. Accepted payment of principal or income. C. Corresponded electronically or in writing with the bank concerning the deposit or otherwise indicated an interest in the deposit. Note, in the case of retirement accounts, the funds are not payable or distributable until the owner reaches age 70 and a half, and distribution of all or a part of the funds is mandatory. 3. Any sum payable on a traveler's check issued by a holder if it has been outstanding for more than the prescribed period, typically 15 years from the issue date, provided the owner has not corresponded in writing or otherwise indicated an interest as evidenced by memo or other record on file with the holder. 4. Any sum payable on any other written instrument, draft, certified check, or cashier's check, for which the holder is directly liable, if it has been outstanding for more than the prescribed period, typically 3 to 5 years from the payable date or from the issue date, if payable on demand and the owner has not corresponded in writing or otherwise indicated an interest as evidenced by memo or other record on file with the holder, any sum payable on a money order issued by a holder, if it has been outstanding for the prescribed period, typically 7 years from the payable date or from the issue date, if payable on demand, and if the owner has not corresponded in writing or otherwise indicated an interest evidenced by memo or other record on file with the holder. 6. Wages or salaries, if they have remained unclaimed by the owner for more than the prescribed period, typically 1 year after becoming payable. And 7. Contents of any safe deposit box or any other safekeeping repository, if unclaimed by the owner for more than the prescribed period, typically 2 to 5 years from the expiration date or on the lease or the box or repository or the termination date of any agreement. Notification of a sheet. General rule. Holders of personal property are required to make reasonable efforts to notify the customer by mail that the customer's deposit account or interest in the banking or financial organization will escheat to the state. Service charge. A service charge may be imposed for the notice but may not exceed the administrative cost of mailing the notice or a specified amount. B. A service charge cannot be imposed for sending notices that are not required, such as notices for accounts with balances less than the prescribed amount. Number 3, under notification of a sheet, is exceptions. The requirement to notify the customer is waived if the holder does not have in its records an address for the apparent owner or if records indicate the address is inaccurate. B. The deposit account, share, or other interest is less than a prescribed amount, such as $50. Letter C, fees and interest. Usually no service handling, maintenance, or other charge or fee may be imposed because of the inactive or unclaimed status of the deposit or account. In most states, the banking organization cannot discontinue interest or dividends because of inactivity on the account. Letter D, reporting of escheated funds or property. Number 1, reporting and escheatment of unclaimed property is made to the state of the owner's last address known, as shown on the holder's records. A, if no address is shown or the address is a foreign country, the property is reportable to the state of the holder's domicile. B, money orders and traveler's checks normally are reported to the state where they are purchased. Number 2, annual reporting, under reporting of escheated funds or property. Each state requires a different report or a report format, a specific report or report format. A, reporting deadline. Reports typically are due on November 1 of each year for property held as of June 30th or fiscal year end next preceding. B, aggregate reports. All property below a specified dollar amount may be reported together as an aggregate sum. The specified dollar amount varies by state. And C, based on the number of records being reported, the state may require that the report be submitted on diskette or electronically rather than on paper. 3, reciprocal reporting. Many states participate in reciprocal agreements to exchange and collect unclaimed property for other states. This reduces the number of report forms a holder may need to write with each individual state. Specific guidelines must be followed for reciprocal reporting, such as notifying in writing each state in a reciprocal agreement. And 4, reporting remittance of property. Reporting and remittance of property varies by state. States may require holders to follow either of 2 general methods. Report and remit at the same time. All property specified in the report is paid or delivered to the state at the same time the report is filed. 2, report and remit at different times. All property is reported to the state by a specific deadline. The state then notifies owners and gives them a due date to claim their property directly from the holders. All property not claimed by the specified date is then remitted to the state. B, states also specify instructions for delivery of everything reported. If the state decides not to take custody of the property, it will authorize the holder in response to dispose of the property. For example, if the reported contents of a safe deposit box are only documents and items of no commercial value, the state usually will not take possession and will authorize the holder to destroy the property. Based on the cash dollar amount of the remittance as payment of unclaimed accounts, the state may require remittance by electronic funds transfer instead of by cashier's check. Record keeping. After the property has been reported, the holders retain all records pertaining to the property for a specific period. The retention period typically is 7 years, but some states require permanent retention. B, retained records must contain all the information required as outlined in the state's filing or reporting instructions. C, after the transfer of property to the state, if the individual submits a claim for the property, the state may request additional information about the property owner from the original property owner. For example, the state may request information that may be in bank records that was not listed on the escheatment report in order to determine if a claim can be paid. Penalties. States may assess interest penalties and audit costs for noncompliance. Fines. Willful failure to render a report, perform other duties outlined in the law, or pay or deliver a sheet of property as required is punishable by fine for each day or violation up to the maximum amount, which varies by state. Interest. Failure to report and deliver unclaimed property within the time prescribed by the state will result in interest payments to the state based on the property's value from the state the property should have been reported to the date the property is received.